Just a day after Housing Minister Hardeep Puri told ET Now that Aadhaar seeding may be made mandatory for property deals, real estate players and legal experts are a divided lot on its impact. Will linking real estate deals with Aadhaar curb the black money menace and Benami deals? That's what we're debating on the show this evening.
The government tweaks the new insolvency rules to bar willful defaulters from bidding for stressed assets. The new law doesn't put a blanket ban on failed promoters from bidding for his own asset, but experts insist it makes virtually impossible for them to take control back of their assets through the bidding route. Has the dice been rolled against them?
Within months after rolling out GST, the government moves to recast the 50-year-old income tax norms, forms a 6-member task force headed by CBDT member Arvind Modi. Chief Economic Advisor Arvind Subramaniam will be a permanent invitee on the panel, which will draft the new norms based on global practices.
Moody's may have upgraded India, but the economy is unlikely to see a big recovery in the next 1.5 years. That's the words coming in from A.M. Nayak in an exclusive chat with your channel. L&T's top boss also says the government's Make in India campaign is a non-starter, even as he finds faults with the GST execution.
The winter session schedule is finally out. Top government sources tell your channel the next sitting of Parliament will begin on the 15th of December and will continue until the 5th of January. No official word just yet, but Finance Minister Jaitley clarifies that the winter session dates will not clash with the Assembly poll schedule.
Breather for the Congress party as the Grand Old Party seals a poll pact with the influential Patidar leader Hardeep Patel for Gujarat elections. Confirming the tie-up, Hardeep says the Congress has agreed to most of its demands, including reservation for the Patel community. The BJP accuses the Congress of playing caste politics against the BJP's development plan.
And in top international news, Pakistan's double standard in the fight against terror continues. The judicial board in Pakistan sets mastermind behind the 26/7 Mumbai attacks, Hafiz Saeed, free. The move comes just 4 days ahead of the 9th anniversary of the gruesome terror attack.
Good evening. You with us right here on the India Development Debate this evening on ET Now. I'm Supriya Srinath in New Delhi, and joining me in Mumbai is Sandeep Gurumurthy. Let's take you straight across to our top story and the big debate on the show tonight. And you heard this first right here on ET Now. The news that the government is looking to make Aadhaar mandatory for property deals has kicked off a debate amongst property developers, legal experts and stakeholders. Remember, in his exclusive chat with ET Now yesterday, the Union Housing Minister Hardeep Singh Puri had said that he is in favor of seeding Aadhaar with realty deals, and this will help suck out black money from the system.
While everyone agrees that a highly opaque real estate sector badly needs a clean-up act, there are many who question the timing. There is a fear that the move will take a heavy toll on sentiment at a time when property deals are hard to come by. Experts are also not very sure about the government's claim that Aadhaar seeding will indeed curb black money in property deals. The pros and cons of linking Aadhaar with property deals, that's the hot topic of debate on the India Development Debate tonight on ET Now.
Do you look at maybe seeding Aadhaar with property purchases?
I think that's a great idea, but I'm not going to make an announcement on that because we are already linking Aadhaar to bank accounts, etc. And what we do in the property market, etc. I mean, we can take some additional steps also. Yeah.
It seems to be progressive. It seems like it's a logical conclusion.
It's happening. It's happening.
No, for it to be seeded with property market, it seems to be a logical conclusion.
That's the way it's headed in any case. Yeah.
So it will happen at some point
or the other. I have no doubt. No one can absolutely enforce that a transaction between two individuals complies with, let's say, check payment. You can never ensure. But what you can ensure is that large value transaction, like for instance people buying property, buying air tickets, etc., that those are monitored. The rest, I mean there's no economy in the world which is entirely cashless.
And let's take it across to ET Now's Nayanthara Rai, who of course got us an exclusive interview with the Housing Minister, and she joins us with more details on the implications of that move. Nayanthara?
Aadhaar for property purchases. That's the big topic tonight on India Development Debate. For the first time ever, a union minister making it official that Aadhaar is indeed going to be linked with property purchases. That's what Hardeep Puri did tell me in an exclusive interview. We've been hearing rumors about it. It's official. It's going to be happening. It's going to be the big move by the Narendra Modi government to crack down on black money as well as on Benami properties. When demonetization had been announced, a lot of critics said the government was going about it the wrong way because the black money is actually stashed in immovable property as well as gold. So this is the government's solution to crack down on Benami properties as well as black money. The minute you actually introduce Aadhaar and link it with property purchases, it's a different way of actually digitizing real estate records for the first time ever. You don't go to the municipalities to do them, you're doing it from the buyer's perspective. So everything gets recorded. Now Aadhaar is also going to be linked with your bank accounts. So minute somebody tries to pay for property and it doesn't match with the bank account, that person is going to have a lot of explaining to do to the tax department. So it's certainly going to bring in sanity in the real estate market because the cash component will certainly be sucked out. I remember there was a very interesting report that Ambit had come out with in 2015 saying if you actually curb black money, it could lead to a 50% crash in Mumbai's real estate market. Something else that should happen is cut down future property disputes because everything is going to be digitized from the word go. So that should be a blessing for the Indian judicial system, which is so overburdened with property cases as well. It's going to certainly bring about rationality in prices. I know a lot of experts and a lot of brokerage firms say there's already rationality, prices have been coming down, but that's because of the economic slowdown and the unsold inventory. That's not because there was no black money in the real estate market. So for salaried people like you and me, maybe real estate continued to be out of pocket, and maybe this move will certainly rein in prices.
Thank you very much, Nayanthara, for getting us that interview and all those perspective also. But let's take this straight across to our debate then. And joining us on the show this evening, Anupam Saraf, Advisor, Governance, Informatics and Strategic Planning, Pankaj Kapoor, Managing Director, License for Us, of course, Madhavan Narayanan, Senior Editor and Consultant, R. Jagannathan, Editorial Director, Swaraj Magazine, Sunil Agarwal, Senior Tax Partner, AZB, and of course former Additional Tax Commissioner. So thanks each one of you for being with us. And Jaggi, I will just begin with you and just to set the context really, linking of Aadhaar with real estate, with property, is this a surgical strike on black money in real estate?
See, the problem with linking anything to Aadhaar is that this has become a silver bullet for almost all problems related to so-called tax evasion and black money. The point is, you have put the cart before the horse. You don't even have yet a privacy law that is strong enough to prevent people from misusing information that is gathered through the agency of Aadhaar. So you would linked it up to anything. The second problem is, it is not as if even today you cannot track property purchases that are happening at the state level, because as you see, most taxes on property except income tax are actually collected at the state level. And in state level, every time you go and register a property, you get biometrics. There are a whole lot of your photograph is taken, your thumbprints are taken. So you already have a system to collect all this data. So the only thing you need to do is link it to a national system so that you can do it. So the same thing like PAN, I mean, it's not, instead of making PAN more foolproof, you are saying now link PAN with Aadhaar. So you are trying to use one instrument to get everything connected, and that is what is mistake. It is not the transparency problem that just needs to be addressed. That can be addressed in multiple ways. But to try and do this before you bring in a privacy law, before you protect personal data and other things, just imagine if you connect 20 different things through Aadhaar and my details are leaked, just imagine how vulnerable the citizen is. That is the problem we need to do. But I do agree that you can put Aadhaar in the short run, but long term you have to deal with property in a different way and not necessarily use Aadhaar for every single issue related to black money or tax evasion.
Sunil Agarwal, comment on that. Jaggi, of course, believes that it's unlikely to be a sort of a surgical strike on black money, and of course he's raised some valid concerns on the ever expanding reach of Aadhaar, and I'm sure that's something that we're going to debate upon as well. But what's your own sense on the impact that this move can have as far as cracking down on black money in the real estate sector, as far as crackdown on Benami transactions that happen? And we all know the extent of black money that's there in the real estate sector. Will this be an effective move to crack down on that? Mr. Agarwal?
Yes.
Yeah, I was asking, do you believe that linking of Aadhaar with property purchases, is that according to you an effective way of cracking down on black money in the real estate sector, of cracking down on Benami properties?
Okay. I think there are two different aspects here, and my earlier panelist did refer to them. Now, there are two. One is the control of black money through seeding of Aadhaar with PAN card, with bank account number, I may add with mobile number. And in my view, that must effectively control the black money in real estate transactions, especially in metropolitan areas. But equally important concern is that the privacy law of India is not yet, I would say, foolproof. Even Supreme Court is seized with this matter, and therefore somewhere we will have to ensure the privacy of biometric data which is collected at the time of Aadhaar, and once that is done, in my view, the seeding of Aadhaar, PAN, bank account and mobile number should be an effective way of tackling black money in large real estate transactions.
All right, seeding Aadhaar in real estate transactions should be able to crack down on black money. But Pankaj Kapoor, you've got your skin in the game. You deal in that sector. What is your view? Do you believe, attaching Aadhaar to real estate transactions, to property really, is going to crack down on Benami, is going to crack down on black money? Because, real estate is one such big avenue where a lot of black money is allegedly parked. Do you believe this is going to help in the crackdown?
Certainly, and I've been into the data company, so I know that how the data can really play a big role. So if you look at it in the absence of any kind of a linkage, that the person who is purchasing the property and which property is linked to it, there's an opaque system, so we do not know. And even after the demonetizations, the government was looking at that the black money will come out, but why could not? Because there's no data availability. So the moment you have a unique ID related to the persons and you have a unique ID related to a property, the moment you link it together, then you see the whole transactions completely transparent. And in this transparent method, you can probably curb this. And it's very important. Look at all the developed world. What's the developed economy and undeveloped or developing economy difference? The developed economy is the one where the workflow happens through the entire data. They have the social securities number, they have got digital records, and they do the linkages. So tax evasions, black money transactions, or all any other kind of a transactions becomes very, very transparent. The moment you have this transparency, I certainly see that the black money will get curbed. And one point which I want really put it, that just because of this black money menace in the real estate, because a lot of money goes into purchasing the land, whether it is from the political side's money or whether it is from the various ways the people have not really paid the taxes and utilized in the lands and the luxury market. It really escalates the prices quite a lot. And I all the time say that if there is 100 rupees is a value of the property and someone wants to put 30 rupees as a black money into the property, the value of the property doesn't get differentiated between 70 and 30. It becomes 100 and 130, and which is creating economic slow down it creating disparity between purchasing power of the people and the property prices, and that's a basic reason you see the economic inefficiencies. We are housing shortage country and we are seeing rising inventory, you're seeing vacant homes available, and then you are seeing the rising slums in this market. Very, very essential for this country to have digital data flow through which they know that who is buying the property, is there equality is happening or not happening. You see there are people who are purchasing 10 property, 20 properties, and they are robbing the rights of the one who can purchase first property.
Okay,
and they are escalating.
Okay, you're making a very strong case for seeding of Aadhaar with property transactions, and some of those are very compelling arguments, and we'll hopefully debate them through the course of this program. But Madhav Narayan, coming to you, some people would argue that already PAN card is mandatory for any real estate purchase. So what is it that an Aadhaar can do that a PAN card can't do? Of course, the counter argument is that this whole talk of multiple PAN cards being issued and fake PAN cards being issued with such ease, and hopefully Aadhaar is not something that you can penetrate it so easily. And I know that's something that some of our other panelists will have a point of view on. But what's your own view on what is it that Aadhaar can do that a PAN card can't? Madhav Narayanan.
Well, I think as you said just now, Sandeep, the best thing about Aadhaar is that hopefully there will be less scope for duplication than PAN. But having said that, there are many, many ifs and buts staring at us. And, Jaggi put it very well on the basics of the case. But let me paint a dark scenario, not necessarily, I'm not playing the devil's advocate here, but it's important to look at the fact that not all properties owned by individuals. They are owned by everything from investment trusts to shell companies to relatives and front people. So Benami is all about not having a naam or a name. So it's very important to have a very sophisticated software system that goes beyond a simple Aadhaar kind of a number-to-number matching of property deals. You need to match 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 10 Aadhaar numbers to understand how people are using Benami deals. Let me take you back to the 1970s when we had something called the Monopolies and Restricted Trade Practices Act, in which there was a concept called the interconnected undertakings, so that you will know who's acting in concert or, like a family or a promoter group or something. Let me also mention that shell companies, which are being tracked right now by income tax authorities, themselves involve a huge amount of tooth combing and establishing of an audit trail. So Aadhaar is no silver bullet. As Jaggi said, it's no panacea, but it will, if at all, if it curbs, black money, it will raise questions on how you deal with charitable and religious trusts, which are proxies, relatives or distant front companies or shell companies. There's a lot of hard work out there, and prospectively this might have a salutary effect, but I'm also cynical enough to believe that what if black money goes into other assets such as Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in an emerging scenario? That complicates the matter, and as it is, we know that demonetization did not succeed, and if shell companies are a potential place to look for black money, good luck to the government. Aadhaar can only lead us to a similar scenario as I see it. Yes, but yeah, prospectively it kind of salutary, there is a salutary effect of people being wary of simply jumping into a black money deal in property. I think in the current scenario of a downturn in real estate, it doesn't look exciting anyway.
Okay, it doesn't look too exciting in a scenario where the market in any case is bearish and is down, but you're perhaps right when your cynicism there. I'm going to take it across to Mr. Anupam Saraf, and Mr. Saraf, one of the things that Mr. Madhav Narayan alluded to, that salutary there may be a good effect, but I am going to ask you the question on the efficacy of Aadhaar. While PAN is perhaps duplicated by a lot of people, multiple PAN is being used by the same individual. What about Aadhaar? Is Aadhaar foolproof so that no breach can be assured?
So there are a lot of misconceptions about Aadhaar. Let me address a few of them. The first misconception is that it's a unique ID. If it were a unique ID because of your biometric, there would be no necessity for issuing a number. Your biometric should have pulled up a unique record. Your biometric does not pull out a unique record, it pulls out several records. And that's why they need to assign a number in order to pull out your unique record and then match it with a biometric. So therefore, Aadhaar is not a unique ID. The second part is that it is believed that Aadhaar is a proof of identity, a proof of address, or a proof of resident status, or even a proof of existence. In practice, there is no agency which has ever audited or verified a single Aadhaar number, and therefore, it is actually not a proof of anything at all. In fact, the entire thing has been contracted and subcontracted for enrollments, that there is no way to actually verify whether people actually, the people who are claimed to have enrolled for Aadhaar. Given by the numbers cited by the IT minister on the floor of the parliament itself, 39,000 enrollment operators were suspended for malpractice. If you assume that on an average each operator was enrolling about 50 to 100 people per day, and it took about a year or 365 days before they were caught, that's 365 into 100 into 39,000. That's close to 1 billion, which means something between 45% and 90% of the Aadhaar database is full of duplicates and ghosts. To use this as a means of removing Benami is simply, is delusional. It's just cannot be used for any good governance. It cannot be used for anything. Aadhaar does not remove any ghosts. In fact, it is a ghost propagating engine.
Okay.
It will produce more ghosts and more Benami.
Okay.
So I think it's important that we recognize that it cannot be used in order to ensure that you are not going to have less of black money. Rather, it will create more black money and black transactions and Benami transactions.
Okay, fair enough.
So it's important that we have
Anupam,
so it's important that we need to have an investigation.
Okay, fair enough. Anupam, just to interrupt you. Jaggi, come in on that. And I know that there is a very strong lobby out there that has raised serious, some of them valid concerns on Aadhaar, but are some of these concerns exaggerated to say that 40%, we don't want to make it an Aadhaar debate. We've done enough of that as well. But, my broader question is, if you don't use a mechanism like Aadhaar, how else are you going to crack down on real estate? And I will go to Pankaj Kapoor after that. It was an extensive survey on the extent of black money in the real estate sector. Do you think some of these concerns are exaggerated on how this entire Aadhaar mechanism is a ghost? It's sort of 40% of it are all bogus identities. Is some of it? Yes, there have been some data breaches, but are some of these concerns exaggerated, Jaggi?
Absolutely. I think it's one thing to say that Aadhaar must not be used indiscriminately for all kinds of deals, whether it's income tax or property and all that, because there are other ways to do that. You can triangulate data from multiple sources and you can find out black money and Benami deals. So that's a different issue. But if you are fundamentally questioning Aadhaar, I would strongly believe that that's wrong, because every country needs some kind of this thing. The US has a social security number, other countries have other things. The important thing is privacy law. It is not about banning something like Aadhaar. I think the Aadhaar, we are not educated. Say state governments are breaching a lot of data privacy issues because they are used to giving lists of beneficiaries and names. So they have been putting a list of Aadhaar number and names on their notice boards. So the point is, states need to be educated. You can't disclose these things just to prove that you're given subsidies to so many people. So I think that is a education issue, and I don't think Aadhaar is fundamentally breachable. Yeah, definitely there have been malpractices. I am sure there have been some duplications. Other thing is, we have made a criticism of more than 100%. Let's not forget one simple thing. Aadhaar is not meant to be only for citizens. It is for residents, which means it is to prove identity regardless of whether you are a citizen or not. It is not, even though we presume that it is for citizens. In let's say in a lot of the northeast areas in West Bengal, a lot of say non-citizens, illegal immigrants may have got Aadhaar. In a way it's good because it will help you with the law and order situation, because if they are committing crimes or whatever it is, you can track them through Aadhaar. So my point is, we should not go overboard in criticizing Aadhaar as some completely unacceptable, it's some kind of a Frankenstein monster. Yes, it was one earlier. Now you have a fig leaf of protection. Now you need to extend the privacy protections which are foolproof. That's the direction we need to go. We need not bunk and debunk Aadhaar. It is the wrong thing to do. It improves state capacity. It also improves ease of doing business. Don't forget, we could not have launched 100 or 200 million new telephone connections, mobile connections, if you did not have eKYC. I mean, it's a fundamental thing. Why do you want to give up that benefit?
Okay. I think there's a caller that's joining in from Kolkata, and Varun from Calcutta is joining in with his question. Varun, come in on that. Welcome to ET Now.
Yeah, hi. Hello.
Hi, go ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah, I just wanted to know what are the advantages and disadvantages of linking Aadhaar with the property thing?
You should be watching our debate to begin with, because we've discussed a couple of them right here. But keep watching the debate. I think through the course of it, we'll be discussing the merits and demerits of Aadhaar, and that's exactly what the show is all about. So I don't think I can go to any of my guests and pinpoint exactly what the 4 merits and 4 demerits are. But I'll urge you to watch this debate so far and keep watching a lot of this. We'll be live on Twitter as well with what our guests are saying, and that will give you a sample, a sense of what the merits and demerits of Aadhaar will be. And talking about one such thing, Pankaj, if I may come to you, how else can we crack down on black money that is so rampant in the sector, in real estate? I mean, your own study of 2012 says that 30% of all property transactions happen in black. The figure could be more, and the trouble is that even tax evasion happens on white money. The black doesn't even get accounted for. So what are the other ways to crack down if I were to go with some in the panel who say Aadhaar may not be all that fertile?
You know, there are two things. Is like, you know, once you have a digital record for the properties available, so and with the digital records, if you have got any other data linked, whether it is Aadhaar or bank account number, you can really find out you know, how the transaction has taken place and whether the persons who has done the transactions had that kind of source of income to do that. Apart from that, I do also feel that majority of the money in the real estate which gets employed in the or black money gets employed in the real estate is in the land and the luxury market. Luxury market has been really down and out. Post demonetizations, the employment of the black money has reduced. Land also has got reduced. Apart from that, I see that there should be some state level policy. I see today's the land prices across India has become absolutely unproductive, and largely because last 15 years we've seen a good amount of employments of the black money in the land prices, and they have escalated quite a lot. I think India probably requires a land productivity bill. In past we had the land acquisition bill, which has really set the higher prices of land, and today's the large infrastructure project or any other projects have become unviable at the current land rate. I see India should today's look at vacant land tax in the sense, so the people will not park their money into the lands and sit and hoard on this. India's land should really become productive if this country has to prosper. I think every other thing which we have done, demonetization has reduced. That GST once comes is also is a data driven mechanism. So we are seeing that the employment of black money is getting curbed, especially in the construction material side. I see the moment you bring policies and laws like vacant land tax, which India needs. Most of the developed economy, whether it's Singapore, US, UK, they have the vacant land tax because the land should remain productive. In India, people use the lands to park the money and the black money. So I think not only just linking the Aadhaar, important is further is that they should have these kind of a productive land policies and the land laws.
Okay, fair enough. But, you know, to bring the focus back to Benami transactions, and Mr. Agarwal, I'm coming, throwing this your way. And the reason why many would argue there's a compelling case to link Aadhaar with property purchases is other steps have not had the sort of impact that many anticipated. You know, look at the Benami, Transactions Act that was, of course, amended in 2016. Despite that, and despite the intent of the government to crack down on Benami properties, let's look at what has happened, the outcome. Show cause notice for provisional attachment has been issued to just 140 cases involving properties worth just 200 crore rupees. surely the extent of Benami property in this country is way, way, way more than that. So, does this sort of make a compelling case for for linking Aadhaar with properties? Because that's probably the only way you can determine who the end beneficiary is, who the real beneficiary is.
That is true. I mean, let me just set out, and I have heard other panelists. I think the extent of black money in real estate in India traditionally has been very high. Everybody recognizes that real estate has been always used as the safest parking heaven for black money. So the problem is age old. The question is how to deal with it. Now, the PAN number of Income Tax Department has been utterly a failure, because people, I know, I am from the tax department, a former IRS officer, one person having 50 PAN numbers, another person having 39 PAN numbers. Now this situation in fact was a drastic kind of a situation which had to be dealt with in a drastic manner. Of course, I am not saying that Aadhaar is the panacea for all the problems, but because of biometric method and because of its all India nature, it is some kind of a social security number, and I would be surprised if somebody is having, or somebody is found to be having 39 Aadhaar cards, which I know as a fact when with the PAN numbers. So therefore, of course there are related issues of Benami and all that, but the point is that Aadhaar may not solve all the problem, it may certainly control, because, and more so in fact I would like to point out one more thing. Now you know that Government of India about some 10 years back said that property transactions shall be conducted only at the what they call it circle rate. Now that has curbed by itself a lot of black money, but the fact remains, I have been in major metros, Mumbai and Ahmedabad, now Delhi. I do not know whether you are aware, in Delhi proper, in particular in South Delhi, even today, the market rate or the rate at which transactions happen is about 3 times of the circle rate. I repeat, 3 times of circle rate in South Delhi. So what I am trying to say that by connecting this, and I would like to repeat what I said earlier in my earlier occasion, that that
yes, Mr. Agarwal, I get your point. I get the point that you're making. I get the essence of the point that you're making, and I will take it. Okay, I get your point. I will take this forward with Mr. Saraf right here. And Anupam Saraf, the question really is that Mr. Agarwal has been a taxman, and we know of so many cases where people have multiple PAN numbers. He's talking about people having 39 PAN cards. Aadhaar can't be duplicated to that extent. Are you going to deny that? And so, it may not be the answer to all panacea and all ills, but the fact is that it is a far more foolproof method than perhaps PAN cards are.
Well, I would urge everybody to pull out your ID cards, any of your ID cards issued by government, and you will find that all of them are signed by a government official with a seal of the government. Now pull out your Aadhaar and see which government official signs it or places the government seal, and you will discover to your astonishment that nobody from the government, not even the UIDAI, sign and seal the Aadhaar card and say this is proof of anything. So firstly, nobody takes the legal liability and responsibility to state that I certify that this person is who he is, what is this person's address, whether this person is a resident of India or whether he or she exists. To use this and say that this is foolproof is absurd. If you look at the Parliament answers in terms of duplication of PAN itself, on the floor of the House in 2016 April, the minister has responded and said that there are only 2 lakh duplicate Aadhaar card, duplicate PAN cards, And these 2 lakh duplicate PAN cards are issued. Duplicate means basically if somebody has lost a PAN and got a fresh one issued, there would be duplicate ones. And if I remember the number correct, there is an absurd number like some 50 odd fraud or fake PAN cards is what the government has said on the floor of the parliament. So therefore, it is really ununderstandable that we want to replace a system which has been used in this country for decades by a system which suddenly comes up, which is run by private agencies and which has been unaudited, which has not been verified, which is not certified by the government, and we claim that this is a magic wand to get rid of black money as if it can identify white and black money. Because Aadhaar has got nothing to do with financial transaction. It had nothing to do even with identification of individuals. Nobody identified anybody during the enrollment process. All that was done during the enrollment process was 2 IDs of people were taken, and on the basis of which, after perhaps correcting some biometric, a new number was issued to demographic and biometric data which was collected.
Sure.
So there is no identification which has taken place at all.
Okay.
And if the 2 IDs, for example, a PAN was used to issue an Aadhaar, how does that make this Aadhaar more valid than the PAN?
Anupam, I'm just going to interrupt you. You know, we don't want to make this all about Aadhaar. Madhavan, I think, has a quick rebuttal to make. We need to take a break as well. Madhavan, coming to you. Yes. Go ahead, Madhavan.
Yeah, the simple point is that we are discussing today the efficacy or lack of it for prospectively on of Aadhaar and Benami property deals. We are not discussing the pros and cons of Aadhaar as an identification process. I think we are sidestepping the focus of the debate by doing that. Having said that, let me also add that we can certainly have Aadhaar as an elementary digital footprint for transactions, just as we put geotagging for tigers in a tiger census. The real question is whether there are other extraneous issues, whether there are other boxes to be checked for Aadhaar to really come into effect as a good crackdown on, or a tool for crackdown on property deals that are illegal or Benami. And that is where the game is at. So we should look at checklists that will have other, escape routes or preventive routes, such as going to the courts, for instance. Even your own Benami transaction thing is only a beginning. 200 crores involved is a very small number. People can go to courts, whether it's a demonetization-based tracking of shell companies, and otherwise there is a danger that the government is already facing in the GST and demonetization case of being draconian. There's already accusations of the government being coercive. So while it is trying to be a star in ease of doing business. So there are lots of messy details to be encountered, but let's not get completely cynical on Aadhaar per se. There is nothing wrong with Aadhaar per se as far as property deals are concerned. It's all about whether you can cast a net that doesn't have holes in it.
All right, I've got a caller right now, but I'll go to him in just a bit. I will take a quick question to Jaggi, and you with us right here on the India Development Debate. We're linking, we're talking about ceding Aadhaar to property and real estate. And Jaggi, real estate in some sense has seen some sort of a correction, but do you believe this move will hurt real estate sector even more in terms of demand, in terms of pricing?
I don't think it will have too much of a dent on real estate prices or land prices, for the simple reason that these things are administered at the municipal and state level, where politicians hold the bulk of their wealth along with their partners in crime. So my point is, unless you get states to start changing the laws which will realistically bring down prices, I don't think you're going to find a point, because there are too many people with a vested interest in keeping prices high. For example, consider banks who have lent money to a lot of property and builders and buyers. I think they are going to resist any drastic fall in prices, even if it won't. Similarly, building permits, in the ease of doing business, that was one of the areas where we did pretty badly, even though we improved, but actually we are somewhere at 180 or some such thing. So the point is, this is where black money generated. Unless you get states on board to fix black money in real estate, you're not going to see a realistic fall in prices. And this, Aadhaar can at the margin impact sentiment, but it is not going to substantially bring down real estate prices to where they should logically be.
Okay, it's an important point that you're making. You have a contrarian view. You don't believe prices will come down. But Arvind, the caller, joins in from Mumbai, and I think he's got a question for Pankaj Kapoor. Arvind, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
I would like to have views from Mr. Pankaj Kapoor on the affordability part after linking of property to Aadhaar. Whether it would really come to the realistic level, and how long will it take to have an affordable house for a common person in metros?
That's a question I'm sure a lot of people in this country would be wondering. Will this move allow the common middle class man, the salaried professional, to afford a house in a metro city in Mumbai? Jaggi believes not necessarily. He doesn't believe that it's going to bring down prices. But Pankaj, what's your own view?
You know, I did some analytics few days back, and I compared 2005 prices to 2017 prices and other cost element to it. So if you look at the prices of 2005 to 2017 has gone up by 5 times. My land cost have gone up by 10 times. My approval cost has gone up close to 7 times. Construction cost has gone up 1.8 times, and the builder's margin has gone up in the absolute term was 1.5 times. But if you convert into percentage of this in this manner, you would find that the builder margin, because of the escalated cost, has gone up to 5%. Which earlier in the good time of 2005 something builder used to work on 30% margin. So question is that why the price is not falling despite demonetizations and other thing, because there was a time when the builders have escalated the prices, but later on post 2012 onwards the way the cost has grown. So the replacement cost of the land along with the construction approval and every other cost has created a kind of a floor which is restricting the fall in prices. And I also completely agree with the other panelist who was mentioning about the other stakeholder also won't like the prices to fall because it creates a structural issues. If the price falls further, your securities becomes undervalued, and they will all the time create the problem. Apart from that, if you see that we have laws where you say that the property sold below the ready reckoner prices or the circle rates, the difference amount will be treated in the as an income in the hands of the buyers and sellers. So that also restricts. And last 3 or 4 years, I have seen that the way the ready reckoner prices has gone up, it has also created a floor. So question is that will the property prices fall down or it should fall down? I see that to bring the parities between affordability and prices, Mumbai prices should fall close to 24%. But having said that, do builders have or does market has created a scope? Or there is a scope for correction? I see none. So we are into a state of spatial and economic disorder, and that's all created because a lot of black money got employed in the market in past, which has created those kind of a situation where economic imbroglio situation, that despite we have a housing shortage, we have a rising inventory, we are seeing vacant homes, and we are seeing builders delaying this thing. So I don't think so prices falling, but I also don't see they are increasing for next 2-3 years. I see more of a time corrections.
Okay, so you don't, I get your point. All right, Pankaj Kapoor believes that prices will perhaps not fall immediately, but they will perhaps stay at levels at where they are for the next 2 to 3 years. Madhav Narayanan, what could be the unintended consequences of a crackdown like this on Benami property? I mean, while Pankaj believes prices may not fall, many others believe it will. Many others believe due to the correction, due to the check on black money, we will see correction in the property market. So the unintended consequences, and what happens to things like, the factors of real estate, cement, steel, all of those things, and of course, jobs.
Oh, well, it's a good question. First of all, let me joke about the fact that I was in Mumbai last weekend and I found all new post-RERA, Post-Real Estate Regulation Act apartment prices jacked up like hell, whereas all the inventory data that we hear from agencies like Liasis Forer tell you that there's a huge amount of inventory that people are sitting on. So there is a fundamental, disconnect in the whole thing that we need to resolve. And like the speaker just said, there are structural issues that need to be resolved. But, real estate is a double-edged sword. First of all, it is the safest industry from a banker's point of view because you have a collateral that you can hold on to. So there is always a banking ballast that is supporting real estate speculation apart from black money. So for instance, we were told right now that in South Delhi, the circle rates are only a third of the, the registered price. But I know that in Faridabad, for instance, that people are able to get 100% loans because the circle rates are, not realistic. The market prices have fallen. So it can vary from area to area. But all this creates a fundamental issue. First of all, overall, urban India has an excess supply wherever it can grow on all four sides. Delhi NCR is a very good example, and because there's a lot of inventory happening on all sides, Gurgaon, Dwarka, Noida, Greater Noida, Ghaziabad, and all that. Mumbai is a unique case where lifestyle requirements as well as short supply plus a certain amount of what you would call inertia of the past are keeping prices high. Somebody has to call the bluff, but who's going to call the bluff? Meanwhile, the positive effect which you mentioned of real estate on steel, cement, and the job creation prospects will keep some kind of positive lobbying in favor of real estate, even if the basic demand and supply factors or even black money factors are standing in the way. Because it is something like everybody loves a good real estate bubble, like everybody loves a good drought. Right. Because there's a lot of economic activity seen happening. So the only way out to really resolve this is for good money to drive out the bad money. I can see, for instance, that listed companies like the Godrej Group are coming in to take over properties that are in distress. That is a very good rational development in the market. The unintended consequences could also involve black money going into other forms of speculation. I often wonder why people are buying Rolex watches. Is it a proxy currency? Right. I also wonder why people are getting into Bitcoin. So we need to have a more rational, big picture view of various asset classes.
Sure.
Let's, again, let me be a bit cynical. Black money speculators will find ways to create bubbles because they want returns. You see, Tamil Nadu is going through this whole meter interest situation. The film industry is being financed by black money in loan shark framework. So we have to look at everything except that black money in real estate at the moment seem better than in a better position for buyers than it did, say, a decade ago.
Okay, sure. Okay, just 4 minutes left on the show. I want to get closing comments from some of my panelists. Coming to you, Mr. Agarwal, and I hope you can hear me. But this is, Jay Panda tweeted this in response to our news break, and he said that this is a bold move as it marks a transition, a structural shift to a formal, tax-compliant, modern economy, and one that cannot happen without some amount of pain. Seeing this in the context of the other steps taken by the government, do you believe that this is a right move to mark this transition of India into a modern, tax-compliant, formal economy? Would you agree with that assessment, Mr. Agarwal?
I think I would agree with that assessment. Of course, it has to happen in a slow and gradual manner. No immediate knee-jerk results can be expected. I would rather support it with this factor that when a completely black money dominated economy in terms of real estate has to be transitioned to a white money dominated kind of economy, there would be extra tax costs will be built in. At the same time, black money will gradually get squeezed out. And I am absolutely hopeful that in future, maybe I do not expect a precipitate kind of a reduction in prices, but I would rather expect that there would not be any significant rise in years to come in, I would say, urban real estate. This will exclude those areas like rural areas where some highways coming up, some factories coming up and prices rise. That is a different thing. But in urban real estate, I do not see in future any precipitous rise.
Right. Okay, so urban real estate, maybe not so much of a rise, rural India because of highways and all of that. Anupam, I'm going to come to you with a question, but I urge you to keep it really short to 30 seconds because I've got to close this debate very soon on that. You know, the one of the things that you did speak about, the efficacy of Aadhaar, is also surveillance. I mean, you know, as a common man, do I feel threatened by state surveillance? First my phone, then my bank account, then my rail tickets, now this. Where does that end? And unlike my social security, this does not assure me amenities. This does not assure me access to infrastructure, to services. So given that context, do you believe this threatens surveillance on common citizens? Anupam.
Well, I think just very briefly, to keep it short, we have an example that Aadhaar-based Jan-Dhan accounts were used for black money laundering after demonetization. So we have clear evidence that Aadhaar has been used to create black money, not eliminate it. Using it for real estate will be the same thing replicated. So also the social security number is being debated to be scrapped in the United States, because they have already discovered that they are spending about $20 billion every year in fake claims because it does not work. So it's important that we learn from examples across the world, and definitely Aadhaar is not a solution to getting rid of black money or getting rid of ghosts in the system, or to eliminate corruption. Rather, it encourages corruption.
Okay, fair enough. Jaggi, I'm going to let you have the last word, because eventually the decision that will be taken by one man, and I'm not sure he's going to weigh the economic consequences as much as he will weigh the political consequences. Given what we've seen with demonetization, is this a move that will be seen as pro-poor? Will the common man of the country support this move? Is because everyone believes that wo chori ka paisa se ghar banaye, right? You know, there's this tendency that it's benami money that's running real estate sector. Will that drive this decision? Will this yield political capital for the government and the Prime Minister?
See, I think if you actually notice, the Benami transactions notification came before demonetization, not after. So this was always on the cards. So my point is that this has a very strong political content, and it will raise the temperatures, because I think it will impact a lot of opposition politicians if they are targeted for Benami deals. So, but the common man will probably see it as a positive thing that the rich are being now built for amassing the wrong kind of property, and it will certainly have at the margin an impact on black money transactions, but it is not going to solve the fundamental problem, which is at the state level. And also most of the value in real estate is captured outside the balance sheet. If you see one simple thing, between 2008 and now, real estate shares have been the biggest value destroyers on the share market. Now, why does this happen when actually real estate prices have more than doubled or whatever? It's because the value is being captured outside, not in companies. So that alone tells you the scale of the problem. And I think Aadhaar is okay for a short term, but I think it's not going to solve any problem.
It's not a bad move, but won't solve the problem of black money in the real estate sector, says Jaggi. Completely out of time. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking time out and joining us in this debate right here on ET Now. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Real estate for long has been an opaque sector, a haven for black money, and that has kept prices artificially high. If seeding Aadhaar helps clean up the sector, well, we're all for it.
Indeed, but the government can't lose sight of the unintended consequences like loss of jobs and also demand. Besides, it has to be a decision driven by purely economic considerations with the intention to widen the tax base instead of political compulsions. On that note, thanks very much for being with us on this fascinating discussion as far as seeding of Aadhaar with real estate is concerned. We call it a night here on the India Development Debate. Up next is Top 10 at 10.
Good night.